What's up, GV gang? Brandon Miracle here with a review discussion about Mina the Hollower from Yacht Club Games. I'm joined today by Steve Bowling.
Hello.
And Daniel Alba.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you.
To talk about Mina the Hollower. It's finally coming out, and we have all been playing Mina.
It's rare that we all get to play a game pre-release like this, so, really cool that we're able to all kind of weigh in on this. I've been curious for a long time about what Yacht Club would do in a post-Shovel Knight world, and it's taken a lot longer than I thought to get there, but this is our first real game developed and published by them as kind of a successor.
Yeah, we were expecting this way back in, I think it was Halloween was when we were going to get the original release dates, and now it's been months later. We've all been really waiting, anticipating to see what a successor to Shovel Knight would be in this kind of format that they've arranged here, and I think generally we've all had a fairly good time with it.
Yeah, I remember coming away from not the most recent demo, but I think it was the one before that, unsure. Just some things were not coming together for me. I found, as beautiful as the art is, it has that kind of Link's Awakening Game Boy look. It's really, really pleasant. But I found in that demo that I was having a hard time understanding what was above and below me. I don't know. Did you guys have that issue at all?
I found the original demo to be pretty underwhelming. I understood the core concept, but it didn't really do enough to get me invested in playing the final product. I'm pleased to say that that's not the case in the final build of the game. I understood it a bit better with the full release, but I agree with you. The demo for me was mostly just a showcase as oh, here's a 120 FPS game on Switch. That's cool. And that was about as far as I got with it.
Yeah, there was a lot about this game. As you were mentioning, Brandon, the depth of it was kind of hard to get a grasp of. Sometimes there's ledges where I would not be sure if I could hop over it or jump to it or go up or down. And only when there's little hanging bones where there's a shadow underneath, sometimes they're too high for me. And I'm just kind of trying to get myself level with the ground. And then whenever I enter a new area, I have to kind of relearn it because all the pixels are different now. And I'm just trying to make sure that I don't get lost and I end up falling places I don't think I should have.
To be clear, was that in the demo for you, or was that reflective of the final game too?
The demo was something that I had trouble with. That was something I had trouble with in the demo as well. But the final game also, that just kind of continued onward. And maybe it's just a me thing, but I don't know. I guess it's just the minimalism of the pixel art that kind of makes it difficult, because you have a jump ability at all times and you have the ability to go underground at all times. So there's definitely, it's hard to translate those levels on something as minimal as Game Boy format.
I did find, at least personally in the final game, that understanding what I was looking at as far as the terrain goes was a little easier. But maybe that was just me getting used to the game over time. I know they added some stuff, when Mina gets close to an edge, she starts blinking and freaking out. And it gives you a little window to jump. I really appreciate that, because I don't know about you two, but I fell a whole lot in this game.
I ended up falling quite a bit. I think that there's the platforming in Mina in particular is kind of tricky. You end up kind of just thinking you can make a jump and you can't quite make it. She can jump, I think, one tile when she's not burrowing and then 2 tiles when she is. And that got me a lot. I ended up by default just kind of burrowing, even if it was a single tile jump, to get used
I did the same thing.
The amount of space she covers.
Yeah, I spent most of my game burrowing, especially after getting some extra trinkets. Trinkets augment Mina's abilities in various ways, and one of them, actually, there's 2 that I got in tandem that changed the entire way I approached the game. One let me pop out of the ground and burrow without landing first, so I could do that infinitely. And then the second one let me burrow into walls. So at some point, I stopped platforming and started Link Between Worldsing through the game, which was cool that it let me do that. I remember, Steve, I had to ask you how to navigate to one of the locales at one point because I didn't know where to go, and you instructed me to get one of the sidearms to make the jump, but I didn't need it because I could just do it innately.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I think one of the things that people may not pick up even from the demo if they've played it is that there's not much hand-holding that goes on in Mina the Hollower. You're kind of expected to explore and figure things out. The game seldom tells you what to do. I did not discover that there was a whole trinket shop in Osix, the main town that you start in, until about 3/4 of the way through the game. I had just been finding stuff, and then I realized, oh, I could have bought all of these upgrades and all this stuff, but I just kind of treated it more like a traditional Zelda game, and just went on my way. I was like, I'm gonna go find the first dungeon and fight the boss and kill it, and I experienced what I would call exceptional difficulty by not going through the world and figuring things out first. I just kind of set off on my mission and didn't realize that I could have made my life a lot easier had I just stuck around Osix and learned what all was there first.
Yeah, I think we went on some wildly different paths because it doesn't really guide you. It doesn't strictly guide you where to go next. Like you can get kind of a little bit of a hint in the main hub of the game, but there are some places where I think I've been to. I'm like maybe like a little more than halfway through the game, but I've been through some areas that you didn't visit until later, like going inside a creature for one of the areas, and then ones where I heard you guys had difficulty in, and I guess I didn't have as much because I'm not sure. Does the game scale depending on what location you visit in what order?
I haven't verified this, but I think it does. Because Steve mentioned a boss that ended up being my second to last boss that I had a wild time with, and he breezed through.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We played the game almost in completely different order. There is a system where the game will kind of give you a hint via newspapers to tell you, like, maybe you should go here next. I did not listen to those at all. I just chose wherever I felt like going. And if you play it in the prescribed order, essentially, it's probably a bit smoother sailing. But I did find like a boss that, for example, Brandon, you had no problem with. I struggled mightily against because I was fighting it, near the end of the game, and vice versa, right? I fought a boss and completely took it out without incident, and then you fought that boss later on in your run, and it ended up being a bit more difficult for you. So I do think there's a little bit of trickery going on. They're probably matching the boss to whatever Mina's current level is when you encounter it.
Yeah, I think at the very least, the amount of HP a boss has has available to it must be related to when you encounter it. Because the boss in question that I struggled with definitely had more HP than anything I had fought up to that point. But I really like that about Mina. Like, it's kind of got like that Metroidvania element of, we're not going to tell you what to do or where to go. Your obstacles are really only blocked by your abilities. And you don't necessarily get permanent upgrades. Like, you get the sidearms, which you lose when you die. And then the trinkets, which are more like, a Paper Mario badge almost.
Yeah, it's very like Castlevania-like, where you get your sidearms that you can have them swap out, and even some of them just look like the axe you can throw around. Some of them just are modeled after that kind of design language. But you also get a lot of different main arms as well. I was wondering what you two were using mostly throughout the game for your main weapon, because I was using the short swords, the really quick blades, so Whisper and Vesper, I think they're called.
I ended up sticking with the whip, though I almost went with the hammer, because I'm a Monster Hunter guy. I play hammer and Monster Hunter, so it was tempting.
I saw it and I was like, is this a Brandon weapon? Is he going to go the whole game with me?
But I think I'm going to save that for a second playthrough.
There is, I was with you, Daniel. I did the Whisper and the Vesper for the longest time. However, I eventually found a weapon I believe it's called the Battery Buster.
Yeah.
And this is essentially Mina gets a freaking gun. And when the gun is out of ammo, it becomes essentially Goemon's pipe from the original 2D Goemon platforming games. And I love that thing so much. Like, you reload it by killing enemies with it as a melee weapon, and then you can shoot them, from afar. So I would usually take on like fodder enemies with just the melee portion of that weapon, and then when I encounter something bigger, I would just stand across the screen and shoot it. And this was my favorite weapon in the game by a wide margin.
I was almost
once I got
to
it,
swap
Whisper and
once
Vesper
I
were
found
forgotten.
it. Yeah,
I was glad I did.
I was close to switching, but no, I ended up sticking with the whip. I bought the weapon upgrade that you can get in AUS, and then I got a second upgrade by finding another whip in the wild.
Oh, that's cool.
So I think that's how you get the second upgrade for every weapon. It was the only weapon I found the second upgrade for, by the way. So I felt good when it was the one I pulled out of the box.
Yeah, I want to step back for just a second because we mentioned other games that influenced this, but I feel like we would be derelict in our duties a bit if we didn't mention that there's also a touch of Souls-like influence in Mina.
Yeah.
Because when you die, you lose your bones, and bones are essentially the currency that not only do you use to buy most things, but also what you use to level up. And you basically get a chance, depending on how many sparks you have, to go back and reclaim those bones from either the enemy or environmental object that killed you. So like if you fall in a hole, they just kind of appear. And if an enemy kills you, that enemy kind of absorbs them and you have to take it out to get your bones back. I thought that was particularly interesting and a choice for like a Game Boy Color-ish inspired game. I've never seen anything like that in older like 8-bit titles. So I thought it was really cool that they added that here, even if sometimes it did cost me quite a bit.
I thought it was kind of interesting and maybe even a little innovative to have like an upgrade built into the game that allows you. Basically, it's a save. I think by the end of the game, I had 4 sparks, so I would have to die 4 times to lose my bones. So there's that first couple hours of the game where I'm like crying my way through the game, trying not to die. My HP's low. I don't do a lot of damage, and if I die, I lose my bones. But in the whole second half of the game, I had kind of forgotten about that element because I had so much buffer.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those games where as it starts to open up, it feels a bit more approachable. You kind of understand the world a bit more. You can understand your abilities, and you have this little bit more of a safety net for those sparks. And I think there's like a trinket where you can also have an extra one as well. I didn't realize for a while that those sparks allow you to go into certain doors in AUS. Like you need to have enough to go inside to get like another cape or a new piece of armor, for example. But no, it's fun to explore and just kind of learn those little by little, just kind of exploring. Even if it's very much not guiding me anywhere, I didn't mind. But boy, did I get distracted. Like I think I'm only a little bit more than halfway through the game because I got distracted with a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm like in some kind of mirror world right now, doing absolutely not the main quest, and I'm just like, should I be here?
It's funny you should mention that. That's the Astral Orrery, and you'll be surprised what you find there. No spoilers, but you'd be surprised how close you are to something important. I will say, Daniel, you touched on something that I would say was kind of a frustration point for me playing through the game. It's very obvious that Yacht Club intentionally underexplains the world, right? It's by design. It's not like a something they overlooked or an error. But I also was in the same boat where it took me a very long time to realize that it was sparks that opened those doors, because they never really tell you. You just see them and you kind of have to put 2 and 2 together in your head. It also took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out that the blocks with numbers on them are related to your vials, that you were spending healing vials to open those blocks. And I found that to be quite frustrating because it took me, I was probably 70% of the way through the game until I realized what that was. I kept assuming it was a number of keys. And while the number of keys that you have is constantly on the screen, I puzzled over this, and I admit it makes me sound really dumb, but I puzzled over this until eventually I just kind of zeroed in that the sprite flipping into those blocks was my vials. And then I was like, oh, that's my healing that I'm spending to open these. I find that annoying.
My first encounter with that, the first like main area / dungeon I went to was the crypt, which I think is meant to be the first one. Did you both do that one first, or
I did that one first as well? Yeah.
Okay. There is a dude who smells really bad inside that dungeon, and if you keep encountering him, you'll eventually fight him in a boss fight. And that boss fight is locked behind a 2-vial door. And that's how I learned that was a thing. It took me until like the second attempt to realize I couldn't heal. And I was like, oh, yeah, it took my vials away. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you. Like, you know, even fighting a boss that took my healing away, it still took me a couple attempts to even realize that was happening.
Yeah, I feel like they could, you know, I think they could have explained that without discounting what they were trying to achieve. Like letting the player know, hey, you're going to spend your healing to get through these, I don't think really takes away from things. Discovering it, it wasn't an aha moment for me. It was just kind of like oh, well, that stinks. I wish I had known that before I went in here.
So I touched on boss battles real quick. There's quite a few of them in the game here, a lot of optional ones. How do you guys feel about the overall combat? It's a big element in this game.
I think the best thing I can say about the combat is that I never really thought about it. And I mean that in a positive way.
Sure.
It worked well enough that I never felt that I was frustrated by the combat mechanics themselves. I always kind of approach, like I had a couple bosses where I struggled, and I would more look at it as, oh, I have to come back with a better weapon or a different loadout or change my trinkets, as opposed to, oh, you know, mechanically this is too sluggish, or I'm not, you know, I'm being put in an unfair situation where the game is really cheating me out of victory.
Yeah, I think for the most part, like I enjoy the loop of having to, like, it matters on your skill, right? Because if you're damaged, you have to continuously hit the enemy to gain more plasma. You can use that plasma to fill in as much health as you need, and you have like so many vials to do so. But sometimes I wasn't very attentive. Usually other games like this, the whole screen will like glow red on the corners. You got like that vignette showing that, oh, you're about to die. But in this one, I kind of just didn't pay attention as much as I felt like I should have. The bar does turn red. There is a little bit of an indicator visually that your health is going down, but I always didn't really pay attention to that when I'm trying to fight for my life, running, flailing, screaming as something is trying to kill me. And I'm like, no, I only have so many vials left.
I will say one complaint I have, and there is a trinket that can fix this, is that Mina takes incredibly long to heal by default. If you are in a bind and you're trying to heal, you need to get a good quiet corner of the map to do that in, because most bosses will not afford you the time it takes to actually drink one of those plasma vials.
You know, as much Monster Hunter as I've played, that's kind of the loop in the classic games, is you're stuck in place. It takes forever to drink your potion. So I was kind of used to that. But when I did find that trinket, it never left my equipment screen.
One that never left mine was whenever I die, I just get a second chance, because that just helps me to realize, oh, I need to pay attention here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the one that like electrocutes you and you revive?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never got rid of that either. I like my comfy skills. I'm going to keep them on.
Yeah, especially for a game like this. I'm not a super like Souls kind of person, but in this context, I think I was comfortable enough to handle its challenge.
I'm curious, Brandon, what did you think of the overall difficulty?
I think I ended at 52 deaths. And I played the game on its completely bog standard settings, so no modifiers or anything like that. I felt like it pushed back just enough for me. Like, I had a good time. I never felt like I was breezing through anything. There were a lot of times where, like, I was fighting for my life trying to get to the next burrow so that I could, you know, make a checkpoint for myself. And I enjoyed that kind of level of stress, but it never, like, became overwhelming for me.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I had a different experience. I feel like, but again, I want to be very clear. I've made a point of what mistakes I made. if I were to play through it again, I would stay in Osix. I would explore. I'd learn. I wouldn't just set out and treat it like a Zelda game, because while it emulates Zelda in certain ways, it is a different beast entirely. But I think when you go outside of like the prescribed order of things, and you just kind of go off on your own and figure the world out, you are setting yourself up for a much more difficult time. I think I died over 100 times. It was a rough go for me. Like I said, there was one boss in particular that I think I died more than 30 times to a single boss. It was the hardest fight in the game for me by a long shot. But I also at that point hadn't discovered how to upgrade the underlab, hadn't discovered that you could upgrade your weapons at all, hadn't found, I think I had maybe 3 trinkets to my name at that point. So I had done very little and fought a boss that maybe was above Mina's pay grade at that point.
Yeah, I could see that being the case, because like once I discovered the shops in Osix, and I didn't right away either. It was after my trip to the crypt that I found all that stuff. I ended up like going out, grinding bones, and then buying the shop out.
Yep, exactly. The minute I found it, I bought everything in it. I made that my sole focus. And so I think that changes things significantly. Because see, where you did it after your very first dungeon, I did it after the 3rd. And so I was just like, wow, this game's getting hard.
The halfway point of the game.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't do anything that I probably should have done at the front. So I think that it's a game where it's very critical that you play it. I don't want to say the quote unquote right way, but it definitely is not. It takes away some of the bite, because I noticed those last 2 dungeons felt like a cakewalk compared to what I had been doing previously.
Yeah, I appreciate kind of the open-ended nature of the game in general, though there were a few moments, and I know, Daniel, you felt this, where you and I were just kind of wandering around just kind of aimlessly for a while. For me, especially after that first dungeon, I was just kind of walking around, just trying to find stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't unenjoy that. I like exploring the world, finding secrets. There are secrets everywhere. So like if you're into that kind of thing, there is a wealth of hidden things to uncover. But, at some point that does become frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just a lot of this game that I'm just slowly discovering still. But I appreciate that throughout this game there's a lot of different biomes and many different mechanics in each of these biomes. Like you've got flowers that you can bounce on to give you more elevation. You've got like you can dive into water in a swamp, and it took me a while to figure out how to dive in water and come out. It sounds simple enough, but I couldn't understand like how it was working like a pit essentially that you had to just jump out of. Or there's also one where there's like a chase sequence. There's chase sequences. I didn't expect that. I got jump scared one time. Did you guys get jump scared in this game with the screen that comes up on the face on the full screen?
I got jump scared by a Mr. Clown guy like 4 or 5 times throughout the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not aware of the one you're talking about, Daniel, but the clown guy got me a few times, especially because I was wearing headphones. it took me out.
That was nothing. It was the full screen, like decaying face, black, red screen that jumped out to you when I was in the dark somewhere.
I did not encounter that. Whoa.
No, I haven't seen that.
I gotta find that somewhere because that scared the hell out of me. I wasn't ready for that.
That's a good reason to mention the vibes. I think the vibes in this game are incredible. The visuals, the music, the different locales. Like one area is it's called Septemberg, and it's just autumn.
Yeah. I particularly liked Septemberg. I thought that out of all the areas in the game, I think it was the most unique. There's quite a few moments in this game where, despite the narrative being pretty predictable, I think most people, when they play the game, they'll figure out, like, you can figure out where the story's going, and that doesn't make it a bad story. But the way they introduce,
I did have to surprise Pikachu face a couple times.
Yes, and I was going to say there's one moment in particular, and I won't spoil what area it is, but you think that you're going somewhere, and then the way you get there is just a complete surprise. And I really, really enjoyed the kind of curveball they threw, because I had reached a point, it was the last area that I needed to go to before the end game, and I was just like, I don't know how to get here. At this point, I had upgraded everything. I knew how to look at the map. I knew how to do all this other stuff. And I couldn't find a path. And there is a fast travel system in this game, and I used that. And the way in which they subvert your expectation of what a fast travel system does was really cool.
If we're talking about the same thing, the way that's introduced to you is very natural and very cool.
Yes.
If you're looking out for it when it happens. It brought to mind like elements of Tunic and Outer Wilds, the kinds of like discoveries that just happen, and once you know them, it changes the way you view things. It's not quite on that level, but it gets close for me. So the game gets points on that alone. It took me about 15 hours to beat the game, Steve. You were fairly close to me in that, weren't you?
Yeah, it took me 18. And again, like I said, I dummy moded the whole game, so I don't recommend playing it the way I did. 15 is a much more reasonable number. I know that Yacht Club says 20 to 30. I don't know how you get there unless you're doing like a completionist run on the first go with absolutely zero information, and you're playing it wrong like I did.
To put it in perspective, I think my item completion was 57%, and I was just playing casually. So I think they're probably right on the mark with 40 hours, assuming 100%.
Yeah, if you're going for everything, then I think you can definitely get there. But there's New Game Plus, so I just don't know why I would necessarily 100% on my first run if that's what I was going for.
Yeah.
The game leaves so many decisions up to the player. And overall, I think that's preferable than being like railroaded for the entire experience. Like even the key system, like keys are a finite resource. You find one, you can use it anywhere that needs a key. I thought that was really cool.
I did really like that. I also
like
love
the
that
joke of Kiers. It's a key gear.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that there's a Kier shop in town that you can buy them for at escalating prices as they become, harder to find.
I think I found 37 of 50 Kiers by the end of the game, and I used every single one I found because there's a lot of locked doors. Well, we've been yapping for a little bit now, and I think it's time to kind of say our final piece. Daniel, what is your overall opinion of the game? You played a little over half of it, so you're still going through. What are you thinking so far?
I like the feel of the game. I like as we mentioned, the mood, the vibe of it, the combat coupled with its like push and pull, the tension of it kind of trying to get from one place to another without dying. I think it strikes a good balance between everything. And like, I also really like the music. Really great soundtrack right here too. I'm not surprised considering how good Shovel Knight's soundtrack is, but the way that the variety is throughout the game as well, like that also sets the mood and tone, which I'm just, I have a really good feel for how people are going to receive this game. And I'm hoping so, because it took so long for this to come into fruition.
And for you, Steve?
I think it's a really good game. I struggle with like where I would place it in terms of, is it good? Is it great? I really enjoyed my time with it. And to say nothing else, I couldn't put it down. Like once I picked it up, I was actually the first one to beat it because I just didn't leave it alone. I had to see it through to completion. I think there are some things this game does really well. The general feeling of traversal and combat, which is really the core of the game, is excellent. I thoroughly enjoy just being Mina in her world, fighting monsters, that kind of stuff. I think there's something to be desired in terms of puzzle solving and exploration, because oftentimes what I'll find is I'll see something, I'll be like, oh, there's a treasure chest up there. And I just can't be bothered to figure out how to get it. I'm like, I know that there's probably something I want in there, but is the juice going to be worth the squeeze? Am I going to find a Kier? Am I just going to find some bones? And ultimately, towards the end of the game, I just started thinking, I just want to get through and find out what happens to Mina at the end of the game. So I think there was a bit of a missed opportunity there where some, in a world full of secrets, maybe there are just some that are a little too obtuse to give the player a solid incentive to find them. Obviously for people that 100% everything, that's that's going to be their jam. They're going to love that. I'm just not that guy. And as a result, I think I probably missed a few things that I might have otherwise found really cool. But I will say, other surprises delighted me. Finding hidden bosses. Anytime I found a hidden boss, I was like, this is rad. I love this. I'm going to smoke whatever this thing is and get whatever it's hiding. So it's just kind of, in terms of the secrets, I think it's a bit inconsistent, but overall, really, really liked it. Couldn't put it down. Once I rolled credits though, I also didn't feel like I needed to go back.
Yeah, I think I largely agree with you. But I feel like I might go back. I feel like this game, the way you view it, the way you approach it's going to change so much on a second playthrough, because now you're not fighting the Lost. You know where to go and what to do, and now you have more agency in terms of how you want to do that. The game does take some stuff away from you as you do New Game Plus, like there's going to be less places to burrow and be safe. So, it ups the difficulty some, but I don't know. I felt like the game was very concise. Like, it doesn't overstay its welcome. I think it's just long enough that I wouldn't mind going back and doing another run. But I haven't yet, so we'll see. But right now, I have been feeling a strong 8 out of 10 for Mina the Hollower. I think the positives far outweigh the negatives. But just cleaning up some of that puzzle design and extra things to find, and maybe adding a little bit more in the way of helping me navigate this big map would have been nice, but I don't think it ultimately hampered my experience that much.
I agree with you. I had written some notes before we did this because I wasn't sure how we were going to handle rating when there's a group of us, and I had written 8 out of 10, like on my notes. I agree that this is kind of the definition of an 8, like a really, really good game, great even, but doesn't quite reach, like, I would say it falls just short of like the excellence that was Shovel Knight. I feel like Shovel Knight was a perfectly balanced experience.
I was starstruck by Shovel Knight, I think is how I would put it, and I don't quite feel that with Mina. I had a great time though, but I don't know. I think Shovel Knight had a longer lasting impression on me. And that could change as time goes on. There's a lot more Shovel Knight than there is Mina as well,
Yeah, that's about it. And that's not any shade on Mina. I think Mina's a great game. I just think you don't make a Shovel Knight every day. So it's
No.
that is about as it's like indie Mario at this point. He's huge, and so I don't know that you can recreate that magic, more than once in a lifetime. But I think that what we have here is a decently solid game. It's a lot of fun to play. It's really hard to put down, and I think no 2 runs are going to be the same.
Any final words, Daniel, before I seal our souls?
You're gonna do what? No, I mean, like, I think y'all have said everything that needs to be said about Mina. Like, it's a great game. It's a great experience. It paces itself very well, and I find myself still enjoying it for as much as I've been playing it thus far. It's not so hard that I get frustrated too much with it. I've kind of gotten used to its controls by now, and just kind of gotten comfortable with the specific trinkets, sidearms, and main weapons that I have now. So I think it's fun to hear everyone else's story about how they approach it. Everyone's going to be doing this in a different order, with different weapons, with different sidearms, finding and discovering different things, because there's a lot of little areas and little nooks and crannies to dig into that you're not really aware of when you first approach this game. So yeah, I think I hope that this game does well, because I love what I played of it.
All right, y'all. We have sealed the deal on Mina the Hollower. I look forward to seeing what you all think of the game when it's out for everybody. That's going to do it for us. So thank you for watching. Keep the games good and the vibes greater. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Till we meet again.